The situation which confronts this Council today is that these recommendations and these appeals have not had the effect of bringing peace and order. The threats uttered during the General Assembly have now turned into acts of violence verging on civil war. And the sparks which were ignited by intense emotion and by conflicting passions now might at any moment cause a conflagration which would certainly result in a breach of international peace. In our view, Mr. President, it is a paramount necessity that the Council should make every effort towards conciliation. Our view in this respect is reinforced by statements made by the representatives of the United States and of the United Kingdom in the Council yesterday. The Canadian delegation has followed with the deepest and most sympathetic interest the course of the discussions which you have held and which has been agreed to by the representatives of the two parties most intimately concerned in this situation.
These developments impose upon all of us responsibility and the obligation to take some kind of action, if one can find it, to harness these forces for constructive ends. In a world in which these forces are not subject to international control, there is no safety, there is no security for any of us. A third world war might indeed mean, as the Soviet premier said last month, the end of world civilization. Let us then seek together for closer international cooperation and for more effective international arrangements. Let us, too, bring to these talks a less preoccupation with pre-atomic concepts of national sovereignty, a greater sincerity, and a deeper realization of the real stakes.
In the past, my government has believed, and continues to do so, that a solution to the problem must be worked out by the parties principally concerned, that it be settled as quickly as possible with a minimum of public contention. Will the Soviet Union give similar undertakings for a ceasefire and withdrawal? I repeat, and withdrawal. But no matter how one labels it, the end result is misery for the people. Where, except from the United Nations, can an impartial and disinterested authority be obtained to hold the ring and thus enable to form the kind of free national government they desire without fear or reprisal?
Which under the Charter has the primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. The Canadian government have been guided by a desire to see. The Canadian government has always been, and still is, prepared to consider any steps which would in fact help to reduce tension in the area. The Canadian delegation will support this resolution. The Government of Canada responded to the urgent request of the Secretary General for assistance by providing a contingent of Army specialists.
Nous avons toujours considéré qu'il était essentiel que l'Organisation des Nations Unies s'assure progressivement des moyens efficaces pour maintenir la paix et nous avons fait tout ce que nous avons pu pour l'aider à obtenir ces moyens. Les premiers signataires de la Charte, dis-je, pensaient surtout empêcher des guerres semblables à celles que l'humanité avait connues jusqu'alors. Mais ce n'est pas là le problème auquel l'Organisation des Nations Unies devait se heurter. Elle est devenue peu à peu une organisation mondiale, tendant vers l'universalité. Et ses membres ont découvert qu'un de ses moyens d'action les plus efficaces était l'adoption de mesures propres à circonscrire des conflits mineurs ou à préserver la paix dans des situations où des conflits locaux menaçaient d'éclater. Si nous nous plaçons du point de vue qui était celui des signataires de la Charte, ce que l'Organisation des Nations Unies a fait pour la coopération internationale doit paraître remarquable. Qu'on me permette de rappeler que le gouvernement canadien avait alors exprimé sa haute satisfaction. Le sentiment raffermi que nous œuvrons pour une noble cause. Nous y trouvons enfin une vision plus claire des objectifs de cette coopération internationale qui se présente à nous comme un autre visage de la paix. Nous conservons cependant notre conviction immuable qu'il existe certaines responsabilités touchant le maintien de la paix et de la sécurité que la communauté internationale est la seule à pouvoir bien assumer par l'intermédiaire d'un instrument collectif.
The introduction into the arms race of weapons of mass destruction, whose use might lead to a world catastrophe, has made disarmament a matter of vital concern to all mankind.
Put our heads together as soon as possible to see that practical solutions are found to the human problem as well as to the problem of observance and enforcement of the ceasefire to which we gave attention yesterday. Thank you.
That Canada accepts the decision of the United Nations General Assembly,
But there is, as the distinguished representative of the United Kingdom said, common ground among us
to discuss disarmament now and in the future. None would surely wish any of the avenues of disarmament open to us to be left unused, still less unexplored.
The Security Council should send a clear message that the illegal regime's use of prisoners virtually as pawns in a political conflict is reprehensible to the highest degree.
That any proposal for a new form of disarmament discussions which would lead to negotiations should be judged in the light of the effect, positive and negative, that it may have on the totality of the efforts to stop the arms race.
Il espère que l'Assemblée l'approuvera à une majorité écrasante, de façon qu'il ne subsiste aucun doute sur cette approbation. L'un des événements les plus importants survenus ces dernières années dans les relations extérieures du Canada, la validité d'une semblable proposition au regard des dispositions de la Charte est fort douteuse. La question n'est pas de savoir s'il faut admettre ou expulser un État membre. La délégation du Canada espère qu'il ne sera pas nécessaire de prolonger la session ordinaire de l'Assemblée générale en vue de réaliser ce qui a été proposé. Il est évident que de l'avis général, il s'agit là d'une question importante. Le vote du Canada par le passé n'a jamais eu pour but de frustrer la volonté de la majorité des membres par un biais de procédure. Nous avons voté pour cette résolution parce que nous avons toujours tenu à ce qu'une décision sur une question qui est importante en soi traduise réellement l'opinion réfléchie d'un nombre significatif des membres.
In moving toward the fulfillment of the purposes and principles of the Charter, even modest steps can lead us towards the goal of the strengthened world community based on peace and justice which mankind seeks.
We recognize that the problem of international terrorism is a complex one because of the diverse nature of such acts, springing from a variety of causes and origins.
I should like to say, as emphatically as possible, that the Canadian legal authorities who have examined these paragraphs with the greatest care do not see in them any veto, whether implied or explicit.
We in Canada have experienced a long history of consultations and negotiations with our neighbors across land and sea frontiers on many matters where vital interests were concerned. It is our hope that this Council, as a principal organ of the United Nations, with special responsibilities in the field of international peace and security, will act in such a way as to foster and encourage a climate in which this process of negotiation can move forward.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Abstentions? Are the votes of all delegations properly recorded?
I think that all members of this Assembly agree at a time when the principles of democratic freedom have been adopted throughout most of Africa, it seems to my delegation that the reality behind these two contradictory positions has an important bearing on the question of whether the Assembly can take any constructive action at this time. What then can we do? We think that the most useful action that this Assembly might take at this time would be to support the present efforts of the British government to bring about a solution to the political problems. These problems of these constituent territories are closely interrelated.
Some will, I hope, be realistic, some perhaps lacking in trenchant plausibility, but all offered in good faith. International norms cannot be jettisoned. Political and, if necessary, military support must be provided. We cannot send our colleagues out to save the world and then have the world abandon them. That the links among political, security, and humanitarian circumstance are seldom so vividly etched. These civil conflicts are so complicated, and they descend into such abattoirs of depravity that even children are willfully targeted and treated mercilessly. And it's getting worse. Somewhere the lines must be drawn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How do you view the prospects today in the light of yesterday's events?
Well, I have every reason to believe, following continuing consultations, that the members of the Council are ready to deal with the draft resolution. I think
vetoes, Ambassador?
Well, Canada does not have a veto. No, you're absolutely
No,
right.
I mean, you don't expect...
Les Nations Unies ne sauraient demeurer silencieuses sur cette question. Et c'est pourquoi mon pays approuve la tenue de la présente réunion du Conseil de sécurité?
Well, first of all, maybe that's not as diplomatic a term as I should have used. Secondly, the United Nations are acting in the way in which the framers of the Charter had envisaged that it should act.
Que nos deux pays sont unis depuis longtemps par des liens fort étroits. Nous avons écouté attentivement et avec beaucoup d'émotion les observations livrées plus tôt ce soir par son Excellence le Président.
An early vote today?
I hope for an early vote.
Thank you.
Maintenant, le Canada espère vivement que les Nations Unies participeront, aussi bien par la parole que par les actes, aux efforts déployés pour corriger une situation qui est tout à fait inadmissible dans notre monde aujourd'hui.
Her Excellency Mrs. Louise Fréchette.
Il est indéniable que le développement économique et social est un préalable à la paix et à la sécurité internationale. Il est tout aussi indéniable que l'on ne saurait parler d'une paix durable dans le monde tant qu'une vaste portion de l'humanité vivra dans la misère et le désespoir. We look forward to a fruitful and effective cooperation. Montre que la communauté internationale s'accorde aujourd'hui pour affirmer que si les grandes occasions de coopération et de paix n'ont jamais été aussi grandes, en revanche, les défis que pose à la communauté internationale, les conflits régionaux, les crises humanitaires et le processus difficile mais combien réjouissant de la démocratisation n'ont, eux non plus, jamais été plus nombreux. The interests of nation states and the imperatives of geopolitics must be subordinated to the interests and well-being of people. Nous demeurons fermes et unis dans notre détermination à y parvenir. Le Canada continue d'apporter une aide substantielle aux plus démunis. Nous rendons ici hommage à tous ceux qui dispensent cette aide humanitaire à la population, la plupart du temps dans des conditions difficiles. Nous ne saurions tolérer aucune tentative visant à interrompre l'acheminement des secours à ceux qui sont dans le besoin. Canada is no stranger to the process of bringing and keeping the peace to all regions of the world. Of the 53,000 peacekeepers soon to be serving under the UN flag, over 8% will be Canadian. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Representative of Canada.
La paix ne peut être durable que si elle est accompagnée de justice.
Canada, Mr. President, is a firm believer in the value to enhanced international peace and security of nuclear weapons-free zone treaties freely arrived at by the states involved, with clear respect for international law.
Cependant, il est évident qu'il reste beaucoup à accomplir pour assurer une paix durable.
Canada will continue to provide significant assistance with emphasis on humanitarian programs, democratic development, social rehabilitation, and economic reconstruction.
We are committed to ensuring that this investment produces a lasting and durable peace.
The resolution the Security Council is considering today further underlines the international community's continuing engagement in the peace-building process.
But there's been plenty of progress. But nonetheless, most of the countries are signing up to these kinds of things, and that is quintessential sustainable development.
Vous pouvez compter sur nous pour continuer à écouter la diversité des points de vue autour de la table. Vous pouvez compter sur nous pour toujours faire de la place à la table pour les autres, quelle que soit leur taille ou leur stature. Une voix est une voix est une voix. Toutes doivent être entendues.
We're all here to serve our citizens and the planet and to move ahead together, united as nations and as partners. A strong United Nations is to everyone's advantage, as is an effective UN Security Council capable of adapting and responding to 21st century challenges. Le Canada est fier d'avoir une politique étrangère féministe. Cela signifie que nous défendrons toujours les droits des femmes partout dans le monde, même lorsqu'il est difficile de prendre la parole. The UN can and is acting as a force for peace in many parts of the world. Depuis près de 75 ans, le multilatéralisme a permis de réaliser des progrès remarquables. L'engagement multilatéral du Canada continuera d'être caractérisé par une capacité de tirer parti de la diversité. L'identité canadienne repose sur le principe fondamental selon lequel nos différences sont un atout, pas un obstacle.
I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Canada.
But for heaven's sakes, Mr. President, we have to recognize that when we read the Charter, read the whole document. Don't just quote selectively from one paragraph or another. Read every article. Take in the document in its entirety. There you will find the Charter, lo and behold, embraces human rights. It embraces gender equality. It embraces specifically the need for social solidarity and for economic development. The Charter is much, much more than a simple celebration of national sovereignty. Some of what I hear today is a cry. And the cry is, we are hurting. We are hurting because of the cascade of crises and calamities that have occurred in the world in the last 5 years, several years. I think any caring, empathetic, compassionate person who heard these words would say, I understand, I hear you. And there have been pleas from many delegates to say we should be paying attention to the humanitarian concerns and to the humanitarian issues on the ground, and we should be striving for peace. Who can disagree with that? The power of unity and the dignity of difference. And I think it's a theme that we should perhaps think about. Sometimes people talk about the failure of the United Nations. And I point out to them that, no, it's the divided nations that are failing. When we are united, we succeed. It's when we are divided that we fail. And so I want to suggest that we need to seize this time and all the times that we have to make a difference, but we'll only succeed if we come together. We believe firmly in rules that apply to each and every one of us, including ourselves. We believe in human dignity and human equality. We believe that these values must be advanced by national, by regional, and by international instruments and institutions. À renforcer ma conviction profonde que ce que nous disons et ce que nous faisons ici aux Nations Unies est profondément important dans la vie des gens que nous représentons. Nous devons nous rappeler notre pouvoir collectif. Comme j'ai dit avant, que le pouvoir est dans l'unité et non pas dans la division. Et notre responsabilité de faire le plus de bien possible pour le plus grand nombre de personnes. Above all, we want to keep building a United Nations that will deal with the challenges of today and the challenges of tomorrow. The equality between all human beings. It is core to our dignity. It is the foundation of freedom. It is the foundation of justice. And it is the foundation of peace. Stop this war. Stop this war. Stop it before there is more death, more pain, and more hardship. Nous devons saisir les opportunités qui existent et qui sont devant nous pour faire la différence. We have to find within ourselves the ability to create unity where there is division. We have to find inside ourselves the capacity to recognize the importance of accepting differences. And if we can do that, then we can create a United Nations that will be worthy of the name. That is our job, that is our obligation, and that is the work we have to do.